You knew you should have closed the trade. Your stop loss was right there. You even looked at it. Your finger hovered over the button. And then you didn't click. Instead, you waited. Maybe it's just a stop hunt. Maybe the next candle changes everything. Maybe I'm about to get shaken out right before the real move. So you stayed. The loss got bigger, then suddenly, you weren't trying to make money anymore. You were trying to avoid admitting one simple thing: I was wrong. Here's what's fascinating. Most traders believe they're fighting the market. They're not. They're fighting the version of themselves that desperately wants to be right. And that battle is far more expensive than any losing trade could ever be. Because the moment you enter a position, something subtle happens. The trade stops being just a trade. It becomes your opinion, your prediction, your intelligence, your identity. Now, every candle feels personal. Every move against you feels like an attack, not on your account, on you. Stay with me for the next 15 minutes, because by the end of this, you are going to recognize the exact moment this happens to you, in real time, while it is happening. And that recognition alone is worth more than any indicator you will ever add to a chart. Let's go deep. Closing a losing trade feels strangely uncomfortable, and most traders never stop to ask why. They assume the discomfort is about money. It is not. You are not just closing a position, you're letting go of an idea you believed in, a story you told yourself, a version of the future you were emotionally invested in. And the human brain does not like doing that. It would rather negotiate with reality than accept it. You've probably done this before. Price reaches your stop. Instead of accepting it, you start looking for reasons to stay. You zoom in to a lower time frame, searching for a shape in the candles that supports what you want to believe. You search for another trader who agrees with your bias, scrolling until you find the one voice that tells you what you need to hear. You reread the news, looking for the sentence that justifies staying. You convince yourself institutions are hunting stops, that smart money is shaking out weak hands, that the move against you is not real. Notice what changed in that entire sequence. The chart didn't change. Only your interpretation did. And that is exactly how the mind protects itself. Not with facts, with stories. Better stories. More convincing stories. Stories specifically engineered to let you keep believing what you already decided to believe before the market told you otherwise. The uncomfortable truth is this. Most traders don't lose because they lack knowledge. They lose because they're incredibly creative at defending bad decisions. Give a struggling trader 5 more minutes in a losing position and watch what happens. They will construct an entire narrative, complete with technical justification, fundamental reasoning, and emotional conviction. All of it built after the fact. All of it built to avoid one 4-word sentence. I was wrong. The brain would rather invent a convincing explanation than experience the discomfort of admitting that. And it is very, very good at inventing. Listen to the language carefully the next time this happens to you. It just needs a little more room. The market always reverses right after I sell. This is still my setup. Nothing has changed. Listen to those sentences again. They sound like market observations. They are not. They are emotional negotiations dressed up as analysis. Because somewhere in the middle of that losing trade, the question you are asking yourself silently shifts. It starts as, what is the market telling me? And it becomes, how can I avoid accepting this loss? Those are completely different questions. They feel almost identical in the moment, but only one of them keeps you objective. The first question looks outward, at price, at structure, at what is actually happening. The second question looks inward, at your discomfort, at your need to be right, at the story you're trying to protect. And the moment your internal question shifts from the first to the second, even if you never say it out loud, even if you're not fully conscious of the shift, your trading has already stopped being trading. You are no longer reading a chart, you are defending an argument with the market that was never listening. Picture two traders. Same setup, same entry, same stop. Same exact moment on the same exact chart. Price moves against both of them. The first trader closes the position exactly where the plan said to close it. He does not enjoy it. His jaw tightens slightly. There's a flicker of frustration, but he clicks the button, he accepts the loss. And 5 minutes later, he's already looking at the next setup. Clear-eyed, unburdened, moving forward. The second trader cannot do it. He sees the same stop level, feels the same urge to close, and instead he moves the stop. Just a little, just enough room to give it a chance. Price keeps falling. He moves it again. He doubles the position size, telling himself this will average down his entry and improve his odds. He opens 4 browser tabs, searching for someone, anyone who agrees with his original thesis. An hour passes, then 2. He's staring at the same red number, except now it's much larger than it needed to be. He is no longer trading. He hasn't been trading for the last 2 hours. He's been defending an argument with a market that was never listening. Same chart, same opportunity, same starting conditions. Completely different psychology, and completely different outcomes. One trader walks away with a small, planned loss and a clear mind ready for the next opportunity. The other walks away, eventually, painfully, much later than necessary, with a loss several times larger, an exhausted nervous system, and a damaged relationship with his own decision-making. That's the entire difference between traders who survive in this profession for decades and traders who do not survive their first difficult year. It was never about who had the better strategy. It was about who could let go of being right faster. Here's something most people never realize until it's explained to them directly, and once it is, it cannot be unseen. The market does not reward confidence. It rewards adaptability. The best traders in the world are not the ones who are right most often. They're the ones who admit they're wrong fastest. Read that again because it sounds backwards the first time you hear it. It contradicts everything our culture teaches about success. We're taught to back ourselves, to have conviction, to not be the kind of person who folds under pressure. But trading is not most domains of life. In trading, conviction without the willingness to update it quickly is not strength. It's the single most expensive trait a person can bring to a market. Think about it honestly. If you're wrong about something, wouldn't you want to know it immediately? Wouldn't you want the smallest possible cost attached to that mistake? Of course you would. Stated abstractly, everyone agrees with this. But in the heat of an actual losing position with actual money attached, that obvious logic disappears. Because in that moment, you're no longer making a financial decision. You're protecting something far more fragile than capital. Professionals understand something that emotional traders struggle to accept, sometimes for years, sometimes for their entire careers if they never confront it directly. Being wrong is normal. Staying wrong is optional. That's the entire difference. Every time you refuse to accept a small loss, you're making an unconscious decision. You're choosing emotional comfort today over financial survival tomorrow. And that exchange, comfort now for damage later, is one of the most expensive trades you'll ever make. Not because the math is complicated, because the math is simple and you already know it, and you make the trade anyway.
Let's talk about what is actually happening neurologically in that moment when your finger hovers over the close button and does not click. When a trade moves against you, your brain does not experience it as a neutral data point. It experiences it as a threat, specifically a threat to a prediction you made. And the brain treats incorrect predictions the way it treats physical danger, with activation in the same ancient survival circuitry. Cortisol arises, the amygdala fires, and in that state, the part of your brain responsible for calm, rational, plan-following behavior goes quiet. It does not disappear, it just loses the argument temporarily to the part of your brain that is much older, much faster, and much more interested in making the uncomfortable feelings stop right now than in protecting your account over the next 6 months. This is why willpower alone rarely works in this moment. You cannot outthink a hijacked nervous system in real time. What you can do is recognize the hijacking as it happens. Notice the tightening. Notice the sentence forming in your head, "It just needs more room," and recognize it for exactly what it is, not analysis, a symptom. The same way a fever is a symptom of infection, that sentence is a symptom of a nervous system trying to avoid acknowledging a prediction error. Once you can see it as a symptom rather than as insight, something shifts. You stop arguing with the feeling. You start simply noting it and acting according to the plan you made before the feeling arrived, before the amygdala had anything to say about it.
There is one more layer to this that almost nobody talks about, and it might be the most important one. The market has no ego. It does not care who was right yesterday. It does not care how much research you did before this trade. It does not care how convinced you are right now, in this exact moment, that price has to come back. Price simply moves, indifferent, mechanical, utterly unaware that you exist. The only ego anywhere in this entire transaction is yours. And once you genuinely absorb that fact, not just intellectually but in your bones, something changes in how you experience a losing trade. Because if the market has no opinion of you, then a losing trade is not a verdict on your intelligence. It is not evidence that you are a bad trader. It is not a personal failure that needs to be argued away. It is simply a data point. One trade in a long series of trades that did not go the way the probabilities suggested it might. That reframe does not make losses painless, but it does make them survivable in a completely different way. Because you are no longer fighting to protect your identity every single time price moves against you. You are simply managing risk, which is what trading actually is underneath all the noise. So here's what you do the next time a position moves against you and that familiar tightness appears in your chest. You pause for just a moment, and before you ask the question that is currently forming, will this trade come back? You ask a different, much more important question instead. Am I protecting my capital, or am I protecting my pride? Because those two questions lead to two completely different traders and two completely different futures. One question keeps you small, mobile, and able to survive long enough to compound your account over years. The other question keeps you frozen, defensive, and slowly bleeding capital while you wait for a market that owes you nothing to prove you right. The market does not need you to be right. It never has. It only needs you to be disciplined enough to accept the moments when you are not. That discipline is not about suppressing emotion. It is about hearing the emotion clearly enough to recognize it for what it is and acting according to the plan anyway. Every single time. Especially the times it hurts the most, because those are the times it matters most. You will be wrong again. Soon, probably. That is not a prediction about your ability. It is simply the nature of trading inside a probabilistic system. Every trader who has ever made consistent money has been wrong hundreds, sometimes thousands of times. The difference between them and the traders who quietly disappear from this profession was never about how often they were wrong. It was about how quickly they let go. How fast they moved from "I was wrong" to "what's next." How little time they spent defending an argument with a market that was never listening in the first place. Your finger will hover over that button again. The next time it does, remember this video.
Remember that the discomfort you feel is not market information. It is the sound of your identity trying to protect itself from an idea it does not want to accept. And remember that on the other side of that small, uncomfortable click is exactly what the first trader in this story had: clarity, capital, and the next opportunity waiting, completely indifferent to what just happened, exactly the way the market always is. Control your mind. Your growth as a trader begins with self-awareness. The rest follows. I'll see you in the next video.